That route that you talked about, let me quickly comment, that you said you explored for about 10 years. Are those routes still open?
Of course.
Possibly. Is that the route through which some of these alleged herdsmen or those trained by Gaddafi forces, Mr. President,
please,
come into the country?
No, I think the Gaddafi forces thing, I think we are getting it wrong.
How?
We do not have Libyans fighting in Nigeria. Take that from me. And if anybody says Libyans are fighting in the country, let the person arrest one and show us. All the killings, all the arrests that have been made in Benue, the police have made over 200 arrests. None is a Libyan. What is being misunderstood is this. Based on, with profound respect, the responsibility of Nigeria and South Africa at the Security Council of the United Nations, the decision to invade Libya was not opposed by Africa. And so, particularly for Nigeria, which did not consider her strategic interest, that if Gaddafi falls and Libya was in crisis, we would bear the brunt. So, as soon as Gaddafi was removed, the armory was looted, and people rushed out with arms and ammunition, many of them very dangerous, many very expensive. And they were hawking them in the entire Sahel region. And our government was told, please, you better go and buy off all these arms and ammunition so that they do not end up in wrong hands in the country. Unfortunately, nothing was done. I'm talking of about 2013, 2014. Again, you can confirm this. The Boko Haram sect bought part of these weapons. Hence, we're in trouble. Those weapons found their way into the country. And that was when herdsmen began to move around with AK-47. It was very strange that the president said, we grew up to know herdsmen moving around with sticks, at best with some little knives. But now, people move around with AK-47. Because apart from the dangers posed to them, you also have cattle rustlers stealing the cows and killing some of the herdsmen.
So what must be done now?
What must be done, which I think the government has just embraced now, rather belatedly, is the establishment of ranches. And that's what has worked in other countries, including African countries. And Botswana is the best example here. Once you have ranches, you practice animal husbandry. You put the cattle there. The cattle will be well nourished. You plant grass, supply water. The herdsmen will be able to stay in one place and educate their children and make more money. The government has just embraced that. Our duty now is to compel the government to proceed and ensure that these ranches are established. It is primitive in this age and time to ask somebody to leave Niger Republic or Sokoto or Katsina to bring cattle to Lagos. It's not workable.
I'm sure that Mr. President will be listening to you, even though he's in London now. But let's talk about his trip to London for a medical checkup. How does that come to you in mind? Because now that the country is faced with this frost of security concerns and just about so many things, the IGP having a face-off with the National Assembly, so many issues are just brewing up at this moment. The president is not feeling well, the health sector people on strike, and this throws up a big question about our health management system, and particularly Mr. President, who at some point had alluded to the fact that we should be able to treat just about everybody in Nigeria. What are your thoughts to Mr. President's trip to London for medical checkup?
While I wish the president well and a quick recovery, as a nation, these medical trips by the president and the rich in Nigeria expose our country to ridicule. Because you cannot justify that a nation of enormous resources cannot fix a few hospitals to the extent that everybody can be treated in Nigeria. A few years ago, I was compelled to go to court with a view to restraining public officers from being allowed to go abroad for treatment at our collective expense. Even though the federal court said I had no local standard, the case is on appeal. We must get to that level whereby if you are going to public office in Nigeria, you cannot go abroad for medical treatment. You cannot educate your children abroad. Unless we get to that stage, we're not going to fix our hospitals. We won't fix our schools. So it's not allowed. In fact, I can even go further to say it's discriminatory and illegal.
In what sense? For
anybody to use public funds to treat himself, while the majority of people are dying in public hospitals that are not maintained. There is equality before the law. So you can't take the rich out of town, while the poor in their millions are dying.
This seems to suggest that you're saying there are some people that are above the law.
Oh yeah, in Nigeria, of course. That's the practice. But the law doesn't allow you. That's what I'm saying. And that's why I'm in court to say you can't single out a few people because they are top public officers, treat them abroad, while the majority are dying in your ill-equipped hospitals. Whereas we have the means. And I have pleaded with the government, don't take the money being recovered to the budget because it's going to be lost.
It's always so insightful.
Use those funds to build hospitals, to rebuild our schools, to rebuild our roads.
Always so insightful talking to you, Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much indeed for talking to us on Sunrise Daily. And we'll be back in just a moment. Join us again.